Hello, this is Kerrie. It's good to see everyone. I am seeing that we have some people from all different parts of the world in our chat, and I think we'll just let everyone file in and come online. Thank you for joining me today for this webinar. I'm really excited to talk about creativity. It's absolutely my favourite subject. So hopefully you'll come away with some little chestnuts from it that will help you with your own creativity. That's my hope. But I'm just letting people file in for the moment. Feel free to type into the chat where you're from. It's really fun to see where everyone is from, and just kind of see where we are all from in the world. That's always a lot of fun. If you would like to type in questions while I'm chatting, feel free to do that. I will come back at the end of this webinar and answer any questions you might have. So feel free at any time to type questions into the chat, and I promise I will do that at the end. I'll come back and answer your questions, or certainly as many as I can. But I'm letting people just come online still. I can see that we've got lots of lovely people from all over the world, so I really appreciate your time. I might just run through a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. And actually, even before that, you may have seen on social media that my masterclass in drawing and painting is enrolling right now. I wanted to let you know a little bit about that, and then I'll jump into this webinar. So that course is all about drawing and painting in watercolor. It has been studied by students from over 65 different countries. It's a course that I'm so proud of. Absolutely loved creating this course. It's drawing fashion, still life, small scale, large scale. It is for students of all levels, from beginner to intermediate. So it's really, there's so many additional templates within this course. So you can be a beginner or you can be an intermediate artist and do the course, absolutely. And I thought I would just let you know that there is a link at the bottom of this video right there that is going straight through to this masterclass that's enrolling right now. And there is a 10% discount code for, I think we have about 10 spots for that discount code, using the code Creative10. And you can apply that to either the full price or the part payments on a monthly plan if you would like to do that. So feel free while I'm talking to click away at any time and take one of those enrollments with the discount. I would love you to be part of that course, but I will come back a little bit later in this webinar and talk about that course a little bit more. But you'll get emailed this webinar, so you'll get a copy of it if you want to click away and place your enrollment at any time. Okay, so I think a lot of us are online now. Let's discuss what we're going to talk about in this webinar. So first of all, what sparks creativity? This is probably the number one question that I'm asked. Where do I get my creativity from? When does it come? How does it come? So I think that's a really important one. Second of all, we're going to talk about how do you create your own artistic handwriting. That's also really important. There's so much noise out there in the creative space that if you can find your own artistic style, it just brings all of your work together, and it just shows your own personality in your work, and people then identify that that's a piece that you did, and that's kind of lovely. Then we'll be looking at processes. Are there advantages to working in an analog fashion or a digital fashion with creativity? Then we're going to look at what if there are other artists out there doing the style that you really love. And I think that's something that's a very common situation. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're also going to talk about what is the best way to approach fashion illustration if you're a complete beginner. I know there's lots of people that want to get started in fashion illustration, but the proportions are probably a bit overwhelming, where to elongate and where to stay in line with the actual figure shape that we all have. So we're going to talk about that as well. and then a little bit about who the masterclass that's enrolling right now in drawing and painting is for. So let's get on to the first subject, which is what sparks creativity. So really for me, the number one thing about finding my own creativity is just noticing when I have my best ideas. So everyone's different. For me, it's very much in the morning when I'm well slept. Often when I'm driving, I have really great creative thoughts. Ironically, it's not usually when I'm at my work desk, despite there being creativity all around me in the office. It's usually not then. And it's for that reason that Grace and Grace, who works with me, we often leave the office to have big picture chats about products, marketing, anything that's involving creative ideas. We often leave the office and our chat usually starts on a walk. We'll walk to a local cafe and start talking while we're outside in nature and away from the office. I actually think that gives us a really good chance to step away from devices and have more creative thoughts. So that's the first tip. I also find I have really great creative thoughts when I'm on holiday. So that's just something to tap into for yourself. When do you have your best creative thoughts? Are you at the beach? Are you in nature? Are you at your desk? Maybe you have them when you're at your desk, unlike me. Maybe you have them when you're driving somewhere that you've driven a million times, so you're not really focusing on a new way to go. You're just kind of doing a run that you do all the time. That's sometimes when your mind can be simultaneously drifting into ideas land. So it certainly is for me, and which is why I sometimes drive 15 minutes to get a coffee so that I get that time in my day to just be driving and thinking. So really tap into when you have your most creative ideas and do that more often. It's a very simple tip, but I really recommend it. The second thing is about mindfulness and being present. I think when you really slow down and you're as mindful as possible and you manage to get your mind out of the past and out of the future, just being present, which is really hard. It's really hard for all of us. But I do honestly think that's when creative ideas really spark. It definitely does for me. So that's a big one. Trying to remember to stay present. If you do meditate traditionally, this probably helps you with that. But ironically, doing more creative practices can help you become more present. So it's like a circle. Being more creative brings more creativity. So leaning into mindfulness, if you can try and do it. And sometimes it's just catching yourself constantly thinking about what I've got to do tomorrow, what I've got to do next week, or something I said to someone last week. Just going back from the past to the future, sometimes you can catch yourself and be like, okay, no, I'm not in the present. I want to be here right now, the way I feel like I'm here right now talking to you. And this feels like a very present moment. And the more you can do that in life, I honestly think, A, you're happier and calmer, and B, creativity sparks in those spaces. My next one might sound a little bit strange, but I really love you to come with me for it. And I think it's a really good tip for any new creative pursuit that you would like to try as a beginner, which will help you really dive into it. And that is the idea of getting really comfortable with being a little bit average at it for a while. And what I mean by that is if there's something that you'd like to try, however you start as a beginner, you're probably not going to be, your absolute best version of doing this thing at the very beginning. You're probably going to be a little bit average at it to start. It's just like if I wanted to learn the guitar, I would have to accept I'm probably going to be quite average at this for quite a while until it starts to make sense to me and feel comfortable and I get my confidence in it. So if you can allow yourself to say, well, I want to learn how to cook, I want to learn how to paint, how to sketch, become a better writer, whatever the creative pursuit is, if you can allow yourself to step into a space with that creative pursuit where you're not very good for quite a while and you're okay with that, you will break through that period and just get better, and it'll become easier and more joyful. So it can be joyful from the beginning if you're just really kind to yourself in the way you approach a new creative pursuit. A kind of an example of this is, whilst learning a language isn't probably a creative pursuit, when I decided to learn French, because my son is half French and I wanted to be able to speak to my son's relatives in France, I had to accept I'm going to be really bad at this for quite some time. And I was really not good at speaking French as an Australian for quite some time. It was a little bit uncomfortable. I was in a space where I was struggling a little bit, but eventually, because I accepted that phase, I got to the other side and I felt like, okay, I can do this now. And it was so worth it. That period where I just let myself be as average at speaking French as I needed to be helped me get through to the other side. And I'm so glad now because I can have these little chats with my son's relatives in France and even with French clients, which is a bonus, because I went through that phase and I'm really not sorry that I did it. So that's a similar thing. If you're thinking, oh, I'd love to try painting, or I'd love to try whatever creative pursuit, allow yourself to have a really long, imperfect stage and just enjoy the doing rather than the result. And you will come out the other side with all these skills and confidence that you didn't realize you had in you. So that's probably my most important tip there, is allowing yourself to be really average at something for quite some time and being okay with it, being kind to yourself through that period. My next tip about sparking creativity is imagining that you go into a bit of a time machine, but you have to be over a certain age to do this. If you are over 35, try and imagine it's the 2000s, it's the 90s. We don't have smartphones yet, and you don't spend every waking moment on your devices. So if you're waiting for a bus, you don't have a device to be looking at. You don't have a smartphone to be scrolling on news sites in your pocket. I even remember this when I lived in Paris. I had a semi-smartphone, but it didn't have the internet on it. And I would wait for the metro, and I would just sit there and wonder and let my mind drift. And I feel like that's the last time, because that was about 2011. And I think all the kind of smartphones and social media really hit us in 2012. And I think from there, we've never really had spare moments to just let our minds relax and drift. And I think even in ad breaks, if we watch free-to-air TV, which we probably don't, but if you do you notice yourself going to pick up your phone rather than just drifting off, turning down the ads and drifting off into a little moment? Because really, I wonder if we would have so many amazing pieces of art, music, just works of art from the past 50 years if we'd had smartphones for the past 50 years. I actually wonder if we would have them, because I do think creatives find their creativity in those quiet moments. And if we're always occupied and we're always distracted and busy with our smartphone, our devices, I think that it doesn't allow our mind to just relax and drift and have those creative thoughts. So that's just a little tip as well. Try and consciously not spend every waking moment when you have a quiet moment on your phone. So just become aware of that. Become aware of how often you pick up your phone when you have 30 seconds of quiet in your life, and maybe make a different decision and say, I might just have little daydreams and thoughts. And that's when all the best ideas often come to you. See if that makes a difference. Plus, it's nicer to not always be on your phone. Just the idea of constantly being overloaded by social media and news stories is exhausting and overwhelming, and having a little bit less of that can only be a good thing, I think. Okay, I also think that sometimes, yes, when you turn off your devices, when you have had these creative ideas, then you turn off your devices and need to do the work. That really helps you actually do the work. So for me, when I had the idea to write and sketch my book, Joy in the Little Things, I made a conscious effort to then turn off my phone, actually put it in a different room to my office, and just go into a deep dive and take a little separation from social media to actually do the work. So I think turning off your phone can help spark ideas as well as execute the idea. And then when I'd done my work, I could go and have a look at my phone. But I purposely did that because I feel like it helps creativity and productivity. So just try that. I'm aware that a lot of us have to and want to take behind the scenes content with our creative work as we're doing it, but sometimes it's honestly better to just lean into what you're doing and totally focus on the creative work rather than taking the behind the scenes content of the creative work. It's hard to switch in and out, and I don't think multitasking personally is helpful when you're trying to really create something beautiful and meaningful and authentic. So that's my last tip there. So moving on to how do you create your own artistic handwriting? And I think the biggest thing here is firstly to take the pressure off yourself to come up with this artistic style or handwriting overnight. It's something that a lot of my masterclass students ask me about. How do I create my own handwriting that's different to other people? And I think the biggest thing is firstly to lean into what you enjoy and see what comes of that. It's in the doing that your signature style will come out. You may not have it right now, but over time it will come out. And I do think trying lots of different mediums, if we're talking about art, I think trying lots of different mediums is really helpful, almost as a process of elimination. So 15 years ago, when I started really dabbling into analog sketching, painting, and moving away from computers, I tried everything. I tried pastel crayons, and I really disliked the way there was so much colored dust everywhere. I just didn't like the finish of pastels, so I knew that wasn't for me. I tried oil paint, which I also didn't like, purely because I felt like the smell was really toxic. I didn't like using turpentine to clean my brushes. I didn't like that it took a month to dry if it was quite thick. There were just lots of reasons that I didn't like those two mediums, but I tried them, and it's good to try things to know. And so I realized that watercolor and then also acrylics, but mainly watercolor, was so forgiving. For me as a beginner at the time, teaching myself how to use this medium, I felt like it was so forgiving and so beginner friendly, which is a big reason my masterclasses are mainly focused in watercolor, but because of that element. It almost does paint itself if you've ever tried watercolor. And that's why I chose that medium. But really, you can take the pressure off yourself, take your time. That artistic handwriting will come out once you've discovered what your medium is. And then it is good to ask yourself, how can I be different? But at the same time, you don't have to have this perfect, amazing, singular style overnight. You can take your time to hone it and resolve that. It will come to you over time. Almost taking the pressure off is helpful, I think. And I always say that perfection is the enemy of progress. I don't know who coined this quote originally, but I love it because I do think all of us are probably very good at whatever we do for work and in life, whether that's motherhood or, whatever we're doing in paid work. And we're not used to starting at the beginning with something new. So the idea of wanting to be perfect is often there, but it's really great if you can take that away and take that off the table so that you can just enjoy the doing of creative work. Next, I want to look at processes. So I guess that links to what we were just talking about as far as finding your medium, finding your style. Another thing that is actually quite relatable if art is a business for you is how long does this style take me? And I do think it's probably worthwhile considering if you're creating art that you're selling in some way, if it takes you 20 hours to do the pieces that you love, you would have to consider, is that viable for me in terms of a business? Because time is actually important. That's another reason that I love watercolor. It is such a beautiful, fluid, fast medium. In terms of time, it's very, very fast. So that's only something to consider if art is a business for you. If you are doing art, any kind of art, just in your spare time, and this is just a joyful experience and you love spending 20 hours on something that is very, very long in timing, that's fine because you're doing it for the process of doing rather than as a commercial project. So yes, I think that's just worth thinking about whether the art style that you've chosen is for a commercial sense or if it's just for yourself. You may want to consider how long does this take me to do and is it feasible as a commercial pursuit. My next subject to chat about is, are there advantages of painting in an analog fashion over a digital fashion? So painting with paper and paints, sketching with a pencil in that analog way, or using a software like Procreate on a laptop or an iPad. And look, I think if you're really just after an end result and you like the process of using software and doing digital art, then that's great. That's beautiful. All art is art. Digital art is art just as much as analog art. But for me, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I feel that when I changed to sketching and painting in an analog fashion, it helped me so much in life. I felt like it brought all this calm and peace and a sense of creative meditation into my life that I just didn't get from working in a digital sense. So that's the reason my courses are all created in an analog fashion, because ultimately they're actually about creative calm just as much as art skills. So I do think, we had the coloring book craze about 10 years ago, and none of those coloring books were on an iPad. It was in an analog sense. That's what adults who were coloring in found gave them a sense of calm and peace and a relaxed mind. So yes, I definitely think there is a huge advantage to working in an analog sense. If you're tired, you're rushed, you're stressed, you're overbooked, and you need to just bring that sense of calm into your life, I definitely think there's a huge advantage to any kind of analog pursuit, including drawing and painting. Okay, next one is, what if other artists out there are already doing a similar style to the type of art that you would like to create? And, I always encourage my masterclass students to be as unique as possible, go off the script of my lessons if they want, find their own style. But the truth is, absolutely no one has the exact same spin on creativity as you. And almost all creativity is just another version of a new idea, of a new way of looking at something that's already been done. So it's totally fine to say, well, I love pencil and watercolor, and there's already so many other artists out there doing that. That's fine. You'll find your own niche in that sector, and it's okay to do art that other people are doing something similar to. You will find your own uniqueness, and there is space for everyone to create the art that they would love to create. So don't let that stop you from creating something beautiful. Okay, I've got here, what is the best way to approach fashion illustration? And I know there are a lot of people that would love to sketch fashion. I absolutely love fashion. I love sketching it. There's something so satisfying about sketching an absolutely beautiful couture dress, especially if it's one that you'd never buy and you'd never own. But there's something about sketching it. There's something about creating it into a beautiful piece that you might even blow up and have in your home, like the one behind me. There's something really beautiful about that. It's the ability to bring fashion, couture, beauty into your home, into your life, onto paper, without having to design or buy these items. So there's something really lovely about it. And I always say to my students when we do fashion illustration to really focus on the dress and keep the face and the figure very suggestive and very simple, because it is the faces and the figures that are a little bit more challenging unless you have some sort of guide and some sort of template to really go off. And for that reason, in the masterclass that's enrolling right now in drawing and painting, we actually do that. So we go through, it's a 9 heads proportion of the figure, and there's all the poses that you would want to learn how to sketch for all different figures, and you're able to do that with me step by step. And same with the face. There's the actual proportions of the face, which are guided out for you to sketch, and they are different to what we perceive the proportions of the face to be just looking at each other's faces. So that's really helpful, helps you sketch faces, figures, hands, hairstyles, all those things that are just very proportional. And that's a really, really enjoyable part of the masterclass. So if you are just on your own wanting to start fashion illustration, keep it simple and make it about the dress. If you would love to be able to do it with real confidence, you may wish to consider being part of my masterclass in drawing and painting, which is enrolling right now, and I am excited to tell you a little bit about it. This masterclass is for creatives of all levels, complete beginners through to intermediate artists. We have had so many different types of students do this course: students, mums, accountants, doctors, retirees, 10-year-olds, 85-year-olds, so many different cross sections of people. And it has a beautiful community connected to it. And that's really lovely. You get to share your work, get feedback. If you want to do that, you can also choose to not do that. It's completely up to you. There are no grades, no deadlines. It's all about joy. It's self-paced. You can do it online completely from home. You can do it in your pajamas. That's totally fine. You can do the whole course and then go back and rewatch it and do the course again. It's really been created to suit whatever your schedule is in life. And I think we're all so busy and we have so many complexities in our lives that, you know, having lifetime access, I think, is really important. And the ability to be able to take the course completely at your own pace is also really important. So just a little bit about what we actually do in the course. We start with really simple paintings in watercolor, very simple. If you're a beginner, this really helps you just warm up to this new medium if it's new for you. Then we move into the drawing modules, and then afterwards combine drawing and painting together in watercolor. And then from there, we move into some really, really fun modules with gold foil, granulation, sea salt. It's so much fun. It's fashion, still life, travel, a really large piece that is frame worthy that you'll do at the very end. And it's really all about joy, as well as just time for yourself. I think as women, we're pretty bad at scheduling in time for ourselves because we put everyone else first all the time. I think a lot of us are guilty of that. And it's okay to schedule time for yourself, whether this is through a course like this or something else. It's honestly a really nice thing if you can do that, for your mental health and for everyone around you. To not always be rushing is a beautiful feeling. So this course, as I said, it's all about pure joy. The supplies for the course are very simple. It's just watercolor paints, watercolor paper, and some brushes. Very, very simple supplies needed for this course. And it's just all about a joyful experience. As I said, it's time for yourself, which my hope is after you've done the course, you'll be so used to scheduling in this time, this regular time for yourself, that you'll keep doing it, whether it's with something else or you're painting on your own, whatever. That's the idea, is getting into the habit of scheduling in time for yourself. And I think that's actually really hard to do. So that's my big hope for you. And if you're feeling stressed or overrun in life, this course will actually help you with that. It is not just about painting. It's very much about slowing down and feeling calm again. Just feeling like, oh, I'm on top of things, and just kind of having that moment where you don't feel like the lists are running your life. And with so many different people who have done the course, it is absolutely possible to do this, regardless of where you are in your creative journey. If you're completely new to art, it's very guided. So you can definitely enroll knowing that it is for beginners and intermediate artists. And the truth is, if you're not loving the course, we have always had in our masterclasses a 30-day refund policy. So you can try the first lessons and just know, if you like working with me as a teacher, if it's not for you, that's totally fine. I would only want you to be happy if you're doing the course. So for that reason, you've kind of got nothing to lose. If you're on the fence and you're thinking about enrolling, this is the time to do it, because it's the last time this course will be open in 2023. And as I mentioned, for that limited time, if there are still some left, there is a Creative 10 code, which you can find at the bottom of this video, and you can click through and use that code for 10% off a full price or part plan arrangement. And as I said, that refund is completely fine, regardless of whether you use the discount or not. If the course is not right for you, I would only want you to be happy if you're in the course, and feel like I'm a teacher that you vibe with, that you enjoy the lessons with, and the teaching style works for you. Every teacher is different, and I want to make sure that you do find my teaching style is helpful and helps you along your way with this course in creativity. So I would love you to be part of this course. It is 12 weeks, or you can take it as whatever time you like. You have lifetime access to the course once you're enrolled. The enrollments will close on the 4th of June at 10 p.m. or when the course is sold out. So that could happen at any time. The course curriculum will open on the 5th of June, and you can take and start the course however you like, whenever you like. If you have any questions at all, if I haven't answered your questions here today, feel free to send me an email to kh@kerriehess.com.au, or DM me on social media, Instagram, Facebook. I will definitely get back to you. There's also a chat feature on the course page, so you can pop through any questions there too. And yes, it won't be back until 2024. So if it's something you're thinking about, this is definitely the time to enroll. Try it out, see if it works for you, and hopefully absolutely love it. So it's time for me to have a look through the questions and see if I can answer any of them. If you have a question at all, whether it's related to this course or anything art and illustration, feel free to type it into the chat. Feel free to type it in now while I'm scanning through these questions, and I will do my best to try and answer them. Okay, I'm going to have a little look through here and see if there are any questions. I've got a question here that is, hi, I have watercolor pencils. I'd like to use them more. Will your techniques be suitable for them too? Yes, you can use watercolor pencils in this masterclass. All of the sketching that I do is actually done in just a regular mechanical pencil, but you could absolutely use your watercolor pencils instead, just choosing the colors that you want to use. So yes, absolutely. That could add a really beautiful signature style to your work. So definitely, I'd say that you could use those. I would love to know where in the world. That's my question. I better not answer that. What else have I got here? I don't see any questions there, so I'm going to just hang in there for a moment and see if anyone wants to type in a question. Feel free, because I'm more than happy to answer them. But otherwise, if you have already enrolled in the masterclass, I'm so excited to meet you and get to know you and be part of your journey through the course. Thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. I really hope that you have taken away some chestnuts about creativity from it. I can't express how much I think creativity can do for your overall sense of calm, whether that's through a course of mine or through something else like journaling, cooking, writing, whatever it is, music. It's honestly, we are all creatives at the end of the day. And if you've ever found yourself saying, oh, I'm not creative, I wish I was creative, just don't buy into that. That's not true. Everyone has creativity in their body and in their soul. And really, it is such a beautiful thing if you can find something or several things that you do on a regular basis that may or may not be about connected to a business. They may not be. They may just be something you're doing for yourself. It is such a beautiful thing. I think I've mentioned in a previous webinar that I took up journaling every day about a year ago, and I can't tell you how much that's changed my life as well. It's a real compliment to painting and drawing. Journaling just 10 minutes a day has absolutely changed my life. So finding these things, and I never thought I would be someone who would journal. I heard about lots of people doing it, but I never thought that would be me. And yeah, I went through a bit of a difficult time and I started journaling and I just haven't stopped. And it's just become that daily practice of journaling, painting, drawing. And when I get into enjoying cooking, I find cooking really lovely creatively as well. So bringing those things into my life have absolutely helped me with anxiety, something that I get from time to time. And if you do too, and overwhelm, I definitely experience the, working mum overwhelm feelings, trying to juggle and balance. And creativity has helped me so much in just getting on top of that feeling of overwhelm. And it's not about doing it once, I think, for 2 hours once a month. It's about doing it regularly, at least every week. I think that's where you start to see the benefits of regular creativity in your life. So I really encourage you to put perfectionism aside. Think of what you could do that's creative, whether it's this masterclass that's enrolling. I'd love you to be part of that. But if it's not, I'd love you to find something else that you can do just for yourself, that is time just for yourself, because it will absolutely change your life. All right, I'm going to have a little look if there are any other questions. Hi, Kerrie, are you inspired of Monochrome, as in a 1920s style. Yes, absolutely. Although probably more of a 1940s, 1950s style is my big inspiration. I grew up watching Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly movies as a kid. So I was a child of the 80s, but those were the movies that I watched as a kid for some reason. My dad probably got us into them. And so I think I've always been obsessed with the fashion and the style of the 1940s and 1950s because of that reason. Yes, I think that Grace Kelly in particular, I think, is just amazing, eternal style. And so that era, I think, affected me a lot in my creative style. And I don't usually paint and sketch modern clothing. That's just not something I do. And that, I guess that's part of my handwriting as an artist, which I enjoy. Yeah, so I've lent into something I enjoy and I've stuck with it. And that's what I meant when I was talking about handwriting earlier. But I think that's all the questions. So I just want to say thank you again for joining me in this webinar. I really appreciate your time. I hope it's been helpful. And if you are joining me in the masterclass, place your enrollment. I look forward to meeting you and getting to know you and being on your creative journey with you. And I will see you soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.